Hi guys, this is Jennifer Miner again, today with a card I'm calling Handful of Henna Thankful Card. To start this card, I'm going to ink up my stamp, and these are from the Handful of Henna set from Technique Tuesday. I'm using VersaMark ink and my Misty tool, and then applying copper embossing powder, and then I'm going to heat that up with my heat gun here and melt that powder. I'm going to cover this whole entire background with henna images, but I'm doing each one separately. This way I don't run the risk of smudging or smearing anything as I go along, and kind of can build that design as I go. So again, here just inking with VersaMark and embossing with copper embossing powder. And so just continuing on with that process. So I just continued on with this process, adding each of the little elements, and I didn't really have a structured plan when I began, just kind of worked along and fit shapes where they worked. So here you can see the completed background, and I'm going to start applying my distress ink. I'm starting here at the top with the mustard seed ink and the circular blending tool, and now I'll be moving on to the spiced marmalade. And you can see just kind of working over the part that was already inked and blending that kind of gently. Really liked this gradation of color. Worked really well for the images. And then once I've got that spiced marmalade how I want it, I'm going to go back over again with that mustard seed. This I feel like really is what helps you get a seamless blend between your colors, going back over. And now you can see I'm working in that fired brick right into that spiced marmalade. And then again back with my spiced marmalade, just again to smooth that transition. And then my last shade on the bottom of the background here is the Seedless Preserves. And again, these are all distress inks from Ranger by Tim Holtz. I use these a lot. Very popular product. So now I've kind of got my background how I want it. I'm blending the fired brick, mustard seed, or excuse me, spiced marmalade back over my background. Kind of just checking it there for consistency and smoothness. And wiping off the excess ink from my embossing powder. And at this point I wanted to add a little bit of distress look to it, so I am using the Vintage Photo Distress ink around the edges. And then on top of that I will be applying some brushed corduroy and keeping that mostly on the edge. So you can see this technique, picking up the paper and then just running my ink blending tool over it gives a darker edge and a little more control. So again, wiping off my... So I cut the sentiment panel using my Silhouette Cameo and a font called QK Indigo, which is based on the old Quick Cuts Indigo font. And just once I cut that out and removed the negative, I'm just applying some of that mustard seed distress ink along just to give it some color. And then I do put a little bit of the spiced marmalade around the edges. Just working that in. And then I also did just a tiny bit of the fired brick right along the edge. You can see that here again. Picking up my paper, working just very on the edge. And then next, I'm going to take a little strip of white cardstock, the same length and width, and just going to apply some fired brick distress ink to this. It does not have to be even, it does not have to be smooth. It really just is a background for my red glitter, just so that if there's or any spots that are not completely covered, you don't see white behind them. And this is probably not a super necessary step, but I do like to do it. So just do that here on this little strip. And then I'm going to use some glittering adhesive and a paintbrush. Just paint that in a fairly heavy application right on my little strip there. I want to get a lot of glue adhesive down to hold the glitter. And I am using Wow glitter here, which is from American Crafts. I like the variety of shades that this comes in. I think I bought it in a pack with like 18 different shades, which is really nice tool. And it's a small amount, but a little goes a long way. So you see poured out a ton there, but then I'm going to pick it up, again using those little forceps, and tap off the excess glitter, which then I use this little piece of copy paper to pour it right back into my jar so that I don't lose any. Of course, I end up wearing a fair bit of this, which any of you who work with glitter know that problem. So I set that aside and let it dry. And then I'm going to take my Thankful strip, and I'm using some quick dry paper adhesive on the back here to give it a decent grip on the glitter. Some adhesives won't work on glitter, so if you are using a glitter background, you might want to keep that in mind when selecting the adhesive for your project. So I just use a acrylic stamping block as kind of a press weight on this, just to hold everything down and get that glue right into the glitter layer. And again, set that aside to dry, and came back with my ATG gun and just applied some adhesive on the back. And got that, there you can see again, using that press weight sort of, and applied 2 glitter domes. And then I wanted to create kind of a background mat, and so I am here using mustard seed, spice marmalade, and just a little bit of fired brick on a piece of just plain white cardstock. And again, since this is going to be a mat, I don't have to apply ink all the way around. I just want to get kind of a smooth application around the outer 1/4. And you can see I go way too far in, but I'm always afraid that I'm not going to get enough ink on, even though I know the small space I'm using. And I really like this technique. I think if you've watched my videos, you've seen I do this quite a bit with create my own background. And a lot of my cards actually start with all white cardstock that I color in this manner. I just like the continuity of shade, and then I don't have to worry about if my cardstock matches my ink, because it always does. And just that little bit of fired brick on the edge. A little extra pop. And then just blending some more, bringing that red a little bit further onto that piece of cardstock. And what I like about all of this is you can stop at any time. If it doesn't look right or doesn't look dark enough, you can keep blending. Okay, and at this point, so I'm going to use my adhesive and just apply my stamp panel to that mat that I've created. Then all of this went on to a card blank, and that was it. I think this was a really fun